Hello everybody, Calamity here, or at least a really good sounding AI program. Today's video is going to be all about the free 4-star you can obtain in the Lantern Rite Festival. You can earn a free 4-star just by simply doing the mini games and other side activities, and you'll gain what's called Festive Fever. You just need 800 out of the 1200 points to get your free 4-star, but of course you should always try to get all of them, because you do get rewards like Primo Gems, EXP books, weapon enhancing crystals, things like that. Really good stuff overall. And in this video, I'm briefly going to talk about each of the characters presented before you. Before we start, I should just state that, hey, if there's a character that you want to choose here because you think they looked cool, or you think they're cool in the story, or you just like their playstyle, absolutely go for them. This video is just to help out newer players, kind of get an idea of what each character does. The first character that we're going to talk about is Gaming, and he is currently available in the current banners that are running right now, which are the Cloud Retainer and the Nahida Rerun banners. So if you've pulled on either of those trying to get those 5 stars, chances are maybe you got a Gaming in some of your pulls. If not, Gaming is a main DPS character, or he can actually be used as a sub DPS. He primarily does his damage from plunging attacks, and he's able to do them consistently thanks to his elemental skill, which is basically like a super jump. His numbers are very impressive. Now, you can also just try this character out if he is your type of playstyle in the character trials that are running right now. So do that first before you just simply pick the new guy. If you're new and you're not sure if you want him or not, he might not be for everybody, so give him a shot, and if he's your type of character, then, there you go. Next up is Yaoyao. Yaoyao is a Dendro healer character, and she does apply a decent amount of Dendro application. It might look like a lot if you've ever tried out Yaoyao because of her little pets throwing a bunch of fruit at the enemies, but there is a cooldown in between throws, so it's not as much Dendro as it appears to be. Regardless of that, though, she is still a very, very strong healer, and she's able to top up your entire team from both just her elemental skill or her burst, which is basically, casting her skill 3 times. That's basically what her burst is. It's more of her pets throwing the healing vegetables at you. And her constellations are okay. They're okay. Like, mine's been at season, 1 or 2 or whatever for a while now, and she's perfectly fine as is. I wouldn't say she's a character that needs her constellations to do well. She's fine without them. Also, I should probably have noted this first before we even started talking about Yaoyao, but if you are planning to pull for the second half of the banners in this update, that's the Zhao and the Yaimiko banners coming up, she will be a 4-star character in those banners. So, if you don't have her yet, well, if you plan to pull for a Zhao or Yaimiko, you just might get her. Next up is Xiangling, and you probably heard other content creators or just maybe your friends that played this game a lot already told you, but they probably told you that you should get her if you're brand new, right? And, I'm gonna say the same thing. Yes, Xiangling is just one of those characters that, she's been a core important character that I feel like everyone should have built. She is a very, very strong character, and she is definitely one of those characters you want to get a C6 of. Lots more damage come from her constellations, and again, she's just a really good character overall. Fits in so many teams. Very, very strong character. Can do Spiral Abyss easily. Not much else to say other than she's just a well-rounded character. Good damage, good pyro application. Just one of those characters. Next up is Beidou. Beidou is a character that supports her main DPS with her elemental burst. Her elemental burst basically gives you a chain lightning attack. It bounces to nearby enemies. It gives characters like Yoimiya a bit more damage when it comes to facing groups of enemies, but against single target or bosses, Beidou isn't going to do much for you. Beidou does have some versatility though. She's great for electro charge teams. You can also use her for Hyper Bloom if you want, although that's probably not the best way to utilize her, but you can. But yeah, Beidou is just really good for dealing with groups of enemies. Next up is Xingqiu. This guy has a fancy new outfit in this event as well. Xingqiu is going to be right there up with Xiangling. He is another core character that I believe everyone should build because he's very, very strong. He's a off-field Hydro DPS character who supports your main DPS with his burst. He basically summons a bunch of water swords that will focus the same target that your main DPS is targeting as well. And he just provides plenty of damage himself, as well as plenty of Hydro application. So he's really good for Hyper Bloom teams, Freeze teams, depending on your main Cryo DPS. And of course, he even works with Xiangling, and they can vaporize each other's damage for big numbers. So he's a very solid character, and one of his best weapons is a 4-star, so no need to worry about getting a 5-star weapon for him. And if you do already have him, I highly recommend getting him to C6. Next up is Ningguang. She is a 4-star main DPS Geo character. She just got a brand new artifact set in Fontaine. She uses the same set that Navia users are farming for. So if you want to get her the most damage for her artifact set, be sure to head over to that domain. Or maybe you already did with Navia and you have some leftover pieces, well then hey, you're on your way. Ningguang is a character that quickly does her damage from both her burst as well as her charge attacks. She's a very solid DPS, and again, just like everybody else, she's capable of doing all of the content in the game, including Spiral Abyss. And her constellations do help her out a bunch, especially that C6 being really good. So if you're looking for, a character that you can rely on, Ningguang is your go-to. Next up is Chongyun. This is a character that is a burst support. His burst is very cheap. It's only like 40 cost or something like that, so he doesn't need too much energy recharge to burst consistently. His elemental skill, though, can be a bit tricky to use because it converts your normal attacks to cryo. So if you have a character that uses a sword or a claymore or a pole arm and you don't want them to do cryo damage, then Chongyun will not have good synergy with that character. He's a very niche character, and he's definitely outclassed by several of the characters that you see before you, as well as other 4-stars in the game. I can't really recommend him that much. He's fine though, he'll get the job done for you, but I do think there are a lot of better characters out there. Next up is Xinyan. This is a pyro support character. She does create shields for you for your team to utilize. However, she can also be built as a physical DPS. Now, is she the best 4-star physical DPS? Not really. Fremine took that spot, or Razor even. I would say it's because of her pyro nature. Xinyan, for a physical DPS, they want superconduct, and because she applies pyro sometimes, with her skill and burst, sometimes that can mess up your reactions. Regardless, you should also know that Xinyan will also be a 4-star in the next upcoming banners in the second half with Zhao and Yaimiko. So if you're planning to pull for Xinyan or use your free 4-star for Xinyan, you might want to just hold off until the next banner. And whether you want to build her as a physical DPS or a shielder is up to you. They both work, well, about as well as you'd expect, which is to say they're both very average. So there are better shielders in the game, like Layla, like Kirara, who are much better than Xinyan at shielding. And then you have better physical DPS characters in the game, like Razor or Fremine, which we also got for free in a previous Fontaine event. I'm unfortunately just going to say this, but she is definitely the weakest character on this roster. So pick her if you want, but just know what you're getting yourself into. Next up is Yunjin. This is a support Geo character. She primarily supports characters that use normal attacks, like Yoimiya, because her burst does exactly that. It empowers normal attacks. Her elemental skill is very similar to Beidou's, where if you time it just right, just when an enemy hits you, you do a counter attack that does big damage and generates more particles. So that can be a really fun skill to use every now and then, but she is a very niche support. So only use her if you have a DPS who primarily does their damage to normal attacks. Otherwise, it's going to be not that much value to you. Her C6 is also really good for those that want to invest in a Yunjin, because it gives you additional attack speed, which is a rare thing to get. Last but certainly not least is Yanfei. She is a pyro catalyst user who primarily does her big damage from her charge attacks. She gains these seals as she does normal attacks. She also gains the maximum amount of seals from her skill as well as her burst. And these seals basically amplify the damage of your charge attack, which is this big stamp that hits the ground. Really good at taking care of groups of enemies. But for single target and for bosses, she does struggle a bit more than other pyro DPS characters. And speaking of other Pyro DPS characters, that's also one of her bigger problems, is that she easily gets forgotten or underrated because of them. Like, you know, her competition is Hu Tao, Diluc, Yoimiya, Linny. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, I forgot it. From Fontaine. Like, there are a ton of Pyro DPS characters in this game. You know, I know they're all five, some of them are all 5 stars and stuff. Also, Xiangling being a really good Pyro off-field DPS as well. And you know, unfortunately, yeah, they're gonna outclass a Yanfei most of the time. That doesn't make Yanfei honestly the worst character or anything like that. She is a very solid DPS. She does put out good numbers and things like that, and she will definitely carry you throughout your exploration adventures in Teyvat for sure. She can be used with many characters, including Xingqiu, because she does a mixture of normal attacks and then into her charged for plenty of vaporized damage. If you do have her at C4, she obtains a shield when you use her burst. And you can honestly kind of build her as a shield support character if you so choose, if your options are limited. But do note that even with this shield of hers, she does still get outclassed by other characters. Again, Layla, Kirara. They have introduced plenty of shield characters into the game since her release, and you know, many of them have much beefier shields than Yanfei these days. Don't feel too pressured by this choice, even if you end up regretting your decision later down the line. It's not a big deal. A lot of these characters have shown up in, you know, limited character banners. In fact, I just stated 3 of them are coming back, you know, in the next banner. So not to mention, all of these characters except gaming are currently in the standard banner, so you never know, you could end up pulling for them in the standard banner pull. Gaming will be in it in the next update in 4.5. Not right now though, while he's still brand new. So don't be too discouraged by that either. And with that being said, that's going to be a wrap on this video. If there's anything you feel like I forgot to mention to the newer players, feel free to share that down below in the comments. Or if you have additional additional questions about each character, feel free to also ask those in the comments down below. I'll do my best to try to help you out. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.